All right, guys, I want to welcome you to tonight's session. Really glad to have you on. And as I said, tonight we are continuing our look on the body system, the integumentary system. And so basically, we started out looking at the integumentary system. And what we want to do, guys, is I want you to have a working knowledge. Once you go through the quantum analyzer, once you start using the quantum analyzer, the idea is for you, let me see if I can do a share screen. All right, can everybody see my screen? All right, so going through this entire chart, we are here looking at the integumentary system. We're going to be leaving the integumentary system and we're going to be looking at okay, good. All right, so Peace would understand because Peace is actually using a quantum already. So she's accustomed to using what we call a quantum analyzer. And in our practice, the quantum analyzer it comes under what we call energy healing. And it is basically one of the tools that we use to carry out what we call assessments. And once we put the person on the machine, basically, it will do a series of assessments. But from the assessment, what we are trying to determine, are you hearing me, Peace?
Not clearly.
Hold on. Is that a little better?
Yeah.
All right, so it was a fun. All right, so basically, later on, a lot of this will make sense. But basically, what we do is that students will learn how to use what is called a quantum analyzer. And the quantum analyzer basically is a tool that we use to determine the state of the person's health. Now, when we use a quantum analyzer, which does anywhere from 30 to 36 different assessments, what it is doing is that it is assessing the different systems of the body. And what we use is what we call an ABCD approach. A stands for activate, B stands for build, C stands for cleanse, and D stands for direct aid. Now, once you put the person on the machine, what we are trying to determine is which of these 12 systems is the weakest system. So sometimes a person will come to us and we put them on the machine, and when we put them on the machine, based on, because it gives you a whole battery of assessment. Sometimes person may say, oh, I can't believe that there are so many things wrong with me, or I can't believe that there are so many things going wrong in my body. Is it serious? Am I gonna die? You know, some persons get really panicky. But what we are trying to do is, I'm gonna go back to the ABCD approach. The ABCD approach. The ABCD approach stands for, oh, this is not the one. It stands for approach. And the integrative approach is one of the safest approach. It deals with persons on a person, close this. Outside of the ABCD approach, and I'll go back to this. Outside of the AB natural medicine, most persons will approach a condition from the default premise of doing a detox. Many times you go to a herbalist or you go to a practitioner and they will tell you that what we start with is a cleansing. What we start with is a detoxification. And that is what we call a one hat fit all approach. A one hat fit all approach. That is the opposite of the integrative approach, or that is the opposite of the ABCD approach. And I'll go through the ABCD approach. So most persons will say that most persons will automatically approach the ailment from the premise that the person started a detoxification. I was at an office recently, and while I was there, I was talking to a particular individual who was explaining to me the premise on which their practice is based. And she was saying to me that, they charge X amount of money, and with that money comes with the first program, which is a detox program. Now, the danger with that is, and let me go through them, A, B, C, D. A, B, C, and D, sorry, A, B, C, D, and D. So A stands for activate. So there are some persons whose ailment already causes them to be in a weak state. There are some persons whose ailment warrants them, it has already placed them in a weak and vulnerable state. And so if your program by default starts with a detoxification, because detoxification or cleansing is a type of breaking down. It's a type of breaking down the body. And so once a person goes through any form of detoxification, what you're doing is breaking down the body. And for some persons, you may have to approach it like that, but you can't approach everybody like that. So the safest way to approach any ailment is what we call the A, B, C, and D. Now, A stands for activate. Activate means that there are certain persons whose ailment, or certain persons who their health condition is because of a lack of certain enzymes. Certain enzymes are certain hormones that are not activated. And so what we do is when we put them on the machine, once we find the weakest of the 12 systems, so let us say, for example, we put the person on the machine and we found out that they have malabsorption, we found out that they have stomach acidity, we realize that they have reduced bowel movement, because the machine allows us to know that. We can know when a person has malabsorption, we can know when a person has a reduction in the digestive enzymes that are necessary to digest the food. We can know when they have malabsorption in the large intestine, malabsorption in the small intestine. We can know when they have reduced peristalsis movement, which results in constipation. So once a person may have that, and a person may also have issues like, we can look at their heart reading. They may have high blood viscosity, which means that their blood is thick. They may have, we can look and see if the person have defective heart valve. We can look and see if the person have what we call high cholesterol, what is it? Cholesterol, what is it? Cholesterol, what is it? Soon tell you. But we can look at the heart. When we look at the whole system, and let me see if I can. We're gonna go into it, but I want you to understand how the machine works. Now, when we put a person on the machine and it does all of those assessments, as a practitioner, your job is to look at that machine, look at all the systems that are being affected, and then determine which of those 12 systems is the weakest systems, and then which of those 12 systems. So let me just bring this chart up. I don't know, I'm trying, maybe, give me a minute. Let me just go for my machine. Let me put the machine up. Let me bring the screen up. Even though you don't reach that far in the studies, but let me just do that so you'll have a visual of what I'm saying. Is that okay, guys?
That's great. That's great. That's great.
All right. So let me go.
Yeah.
All right. So you get the training, but this is one of the machines. This is what it looks like. So I have one of these in every office. So this is what it looks like. This is my personal one. This is another one. So each of you guys will need to purchase one of these. Right, so this is another one, the smaller one, and I have about maybe about I have one for every office. I have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 6 of these. So because in every office we need one of these. This is what we use to assess persons. And I need to show you because it may not make sense if I don't show you. The lesson that we're doing may not make any sense. So let me show you how it operates. Oh, hold on.
Recording in progress.
In the question, the main with. So let me stop. Up to open.
Yes.
So can you guys hear me okay? I don't think it's gonna open up because hold on. Let me try again and open it up. I seem to have open. So let me just do a share screen now. All right. Is everyone seeing my screen?
Yes.
All right. So let me just.
Yes, I see
Let
clearly.
me drop a client. So let me just open this up. Over there, what is I have softwares that it's slowed down like and I want to show these are all the cardiovascular, the gallbladder, the pancreas. Did about 28. It's about 28. Now, when we put a person on the machine, it's going to do a battery of assessments. So it's looking at we can say that it's normal. This is how much cholesterol has lined the intestine, the blood vessels. So for this reading, this is a normal range. This is 614. So this is moderate to abnormal. One, let me I can scroll. All of this person's body, so with the digestive system, the pancreas, all I can calcium, selenium, and phosphorus. We can look at this. The person. Goal is not to teach this in this. I want to point out areas through all of this are compacted as if like this 2 week. So let me know. Close off this and move to the next. Where you want to transfer this knowledge. So once you go through the assessment, all the systems being over to this chart. Share. So you're going to take that knowledge and it don't necessarily mean that you'll have the chart. You have to have this in your head. So this is what I have to have in my head. So with what I just showed you, it becomes chart over. You have this information, what I'm more about, what when I acidity, I read I digestive system, about character, we need a carmine, a cholagogue, a language, and emetic, and because we're going to need suffering hard riches and as a person have details of laxative because they are different activity wrong and they're active. We know when terminative does this botanic, which is but it's also a herb that emetic, even though I need an emetic from the acid inside of my head that the need. And then when we go herb, which you can teach you put on medicine. This is why this is something multiple set remedy of that because I want right now even a building block. So we look at diaphoretic rubefacents. If because diaphoretics, the person, we have persons that we just had a gentleman a while ago. In other words, detoxification, we get rid of waste through perspiration, defecation, and when you check somebody, you want to ensure that those three channels, person having bowel movement, urinary movement, check. Is a person of elimination should be working the way he or she should. Then we herbs that induces sweating. All right. Now, so B, C, and D. The default approach in treating a person is detoxification. You can't start everybody with a detox. And if you detoxify them, you are good at. But that cannot be the. And you look at the weakest system. So, for example, I just said, so I've gone through the machine. I realized that they have these issues. Why do you want to find the weakest system? You want to find the weakest system. The body heals itself naturally. The body heals itself naturally. There is a system. When a system becomes weakened and it is not attention, is that it manifests, it's paying attention, it manifests to you and is not having enough bowel movement. Or the person has acidic stomach. The person has stomach acidity. Now that stomach acidity started out, first of all, with the person having to burn their stomach. They're not paying attention. Now every food burns their stomach. They're not paying attention. Now they start to have headache. Now they start to have secondary and tertiary problems. You don't need to sometimes deal with the secondary and the tertiary problems because those are the result of a primary system being very weak. So usually what happens is that if you that weak system, and the tertiary system really need to deal with, need to do is to find the weakest system will resolve the persons. For example, a person with a digestive system issue, a person, because we eat a lot of times we weren't made to eat the amount of meat that we eat. So a lot of times that pepsin is one of the enzymes that digest protein. So a lot of the times our body does not produce enough we ingest. So what happened is that, let's say you ate a quarter chicken, you went to digest that much meat. We are herbivores. So because we don't have what is going to happen is that the body remains is going to system and then putrefaction start to take place. Now, because the enzyme was not sufficient, or because it's sometimes that person needs to be acted as a thyroid issue, so the person is ill because what they need is enzymes or nutrients. What they need is activation. Sometimes you have poor nutrition, don't to activate. What we need sometime to do is where you put them on dense nutrition, densely nutritious, to activate. They activate A, B is to build. Sometimes a person comes to you, they are so weak to be built up. And there are times when you need to build them up strong enough to go back to a breaking down process, which is a detoxification process. I remember I had a client, I think he had cancer, I don't know what it was, but he was really ill. And when he came, it's fine, but guess what? He was too weak because before he came, so he was very weak and he really needed. So what we had to do was we had very rich in nutrients and the minute appetite, because he didn't have any appetite. So there's a herb called bitter quassia eating disorders. So what we did was that we gave him some quassia and his appetite opened, lots of CMAS. And then when he was strong enough, then we gave him a liver flush. And he was in certain cases, you can't do certain treatments outside of supervision. You have to take the person in where you can supervise. In this case, he was in our care for about 10 days. When we gave him the liver flush, we were staying on the property. and we got a phone call in the bathroom, and he brought us to the toilet, and what we saw was something, and it was as hard as a rock. It couldn't even be flushed. And after, then what came was pure black stuff, because so we had to build him up first to the point where he was strong enough. Then we had to cleanse him, and cleanse, of course, very important, because that it becomes insensitive to herbal medicine, because natural medicine is not as concentrated as pharmaceutical drug. It's much milder. And so because of that, the body has to be receptive enough to utilize it. But if the body has toxins, that toxic body, that medicine, that natural medicine, that herbal medicine has to compete with far more toxic compounds in the body. So as a result, that you put in it. And so that is where detoxification comes in. Detoxification removes compounds and chemicals from the body that makes the body now sensitive enough to utilize the natural minerals that you put in it. And so then there is direct aid. So there is A, activate, B, build, C, cleanse, and D, direct aid. Direct aid is where you will employ, maybe you may have to use a particular herb, or you may have to use a particular compound in the body or a condition in the body. So let's say, for example, I just said a while ago, this gentleman didn't have any in the form of a herb to give him appetite, right? That was a direct aid. We had to use appetite so that we can continue the rest of the healing process. Organs, maybe the liver, maybe the blood. So when you put the person on the machine, once you now identify the weakest system, the next are the ABCD approach. 2 of the 4, 3 of the 4 are all of the above. Are you going to offer direct aid? And you most of the time when a person is critically, person's outline, they just have to, sometimes you may have to just detoxify them. Sometimes you may just have to cleanse them, you know, but it depends. Let me just share screen because I'm utilizing so much of my internet resource. All right, and let me just, because I'm talking so much, but so let me just pause there because I really want you guys to, because we're going to be going into some more of these body systems, but I really wanted to see where in the whole scheme, where in the whole grand scheme, this knowledge base that you're getting, where it is going to fit in. Is there anybody who have any questions or who want clarification so far?
So what is the name of the machine that you use?
It's called a quantum magnetic meridian analyzer. I just put quantum, QRMI, quantum resonance magnetic analyzer.
Okay.
And I can't wait because I'll explain to you the whole science behind that. I'm very excited about it because there were a lot of persons who had doubts and so on, but what this machine that we use is an assessment machine. But where technology has gone now is that they have reversed the technology to create what we now call therapeutic machines. So if you look up, it's called what is it called? It's called magnetic suteller. But what they have done is that they've reversed engineered this machine to create machines that offer therapy. So we'll be getting one of those machines soon. But I can't wait. I'll explain to you the whole science behind it, how magnetic resonance energy works. You know, I'll explain to that. But the machines are called pulse, PEMF, that's a term. You can look it up, type it down, PEMF, pulse electromagnetic energy. That's the future of medicine. PEMF, pulse electromagnetic frequency therapy. PEMF, pulse electromagnetic frequency therapy. They have reversed the technology that was used to create this. And basically, in a nutshell, what it says is that every cell in your body has a frequency. Every cell in your body has a frequency. It has a frequency that is normal, and it has a frequency that is below normal. So when I put the screen up a while ago, what is happening here? When I put the screen, when I showed you the machine, I showed you what is the normal range, what is your actual reading. Now, so your cells have a frequency of what is natural. Anything outside of that is unnatural. What happens now is that they have created machines that when your cells are not natural, they can send signals into your cells to create that frequency of normalcy. So they don't have to use medicine. They know, for example, that your eye cells should be between 26 point this, that, and it is 13 that. They have machines that they can put you on and send electromagnetic frequency in those cells and raise the level to a natural range. You know, like when we used to watch those sci-fi movies where you would see people sick and they would bring them into a room and put them on a bed and a light passes over them. And about a couple minutes after, their cells regenerate. The technology is now available to do that.
Excuse me, Doc. I don't know if you've ever heard about the med bed.
Yeah, man. We have the, it's called my gun. You mean about me gun?
I'm not aware of that terminology. I'm not aware of that term.
Well, it's similar to the bed that you're talking about.
Yeah, man, because
so,
it is operational. It is in use at this moment as we speak.
Oh yes, yeah, man. I'm telling you. So there are some. So this is. Go ahead.
And that for a lot of people who might not understand, although probably they do, is all about electromagnetism.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying, and each cell in your body requires at least negative 25 millivolt or electricity to function properly.
Right.
And from all of the bad food, and especially the demineralized food, it causes, and the overload, the acidity and toxins, it causes the pH value, which is the electrical value of the cell, to plummet. So
right.
What Doc is saying is that when that electrical value that is needed for the cell to perform their function, just because if you notice, if you get a cut, if your leg get amputated, it heals itself. So the cells of the body, the nucleus, that DNA information is there, that original template of what each cell, tissue, organ, limb should be. So once you reintroduce the right amount of electricity that the cell needs, it reestablishes homeostasis. Basically, it heals itself. So it's a similar thing. It's basically electricity. Like you're tired, you can't keep yourself up, you go sleep, your breathing rate go real deep, you get up back, you're more alive than when you go, and you didn't eat anything. It's just electricity where your body create with the oxygen and wherever else, whatever other level of quantum energy that your body is absorbing so basically it's that. It's just energy your body using to recharge, to reset itself. Sorry about that.
Right. So what this machine does is that this machine measures the energy in those cells. That's what it does. It measures the energy in those cells and translates it into a reading, because what it gives you is data. And now from your training, you have to transfer or convert that data into information that you can now use. So we'll teach you how to read that machine, and we'll teach you how to use that knowledge, how to transfer that knowledge. So what I'm saying now is that the unit that we are doing now, you will need to have that knowledge of the 12 major systems. So there are 12 major systems that govern the body. There are other systems, but there are 12 major systems. So when I put a person on the machine, my job is to, 1, determine what is the weakest system. Number 2, I have to have a working knowledge of the chart that I just put up. And then number 2, determine what are the herbal actions that I will need in order to respond to this weak system. And then number 3, of the A, B, C, and D approach, which of those will I employ and in what order will I employ them? Once you develop a working knowledge of that, I'm telling you, you'll be amazed as to what you'll be able to do. That is the foundation of what we do. And of course, once you know, understand energetics and understand what the state of the tissue is and how you, what can the condition tells you what herbal action, what herbal energy it needs. So once you're able to use those systems, those different systems of information, once you're able to know how to skillfully mix them, that is what you will need in order to be effective and very effective in your practice. All right, anybody else have any questions or comments as it relates to what I just shared?
Well, what I can add to what you have just said, that technology make things easy for you guys as a herbal doctor, because you can find what is happening to the person, and then you will know exactly how to treat the person, how to approach to cure the sickness that he or she has.
Well, what I want to say now, yeah, technology makes it easier, but everything that I just shared with you and everything that this machine can do, our ancient ancestors could do it using the 5 senses. It's just that for example, what I'm teaching in the next 10 months would take you about 10 years to learn, because you would have to develop an acute sense of utilizing the 5 senses in order to be able to do it. But what I'm saying is that everything that the machine does in terms of the assessment and in terms of the therapeutics, because what man has done is that man has studied nature, and what they have done is that they have used that information. They have modified, that's the term I'm looking for. They have modified that information and they have applied it in a way that is much more simpler. But I want to say that everything that these machine does as it relates to assessment or as it relates to therapeutics, our bodies can do the same and even far better, because we have intelligence far superior to these machines. These machines are programmed by man. They are subjective to errors. They are subjective to all different types of, all type of different issues. But the human body, our ancestors were able to do all of this. They were able to assess person, and they were able to offer the inverse, which is therapeutics through energies and through magnetism.
Ironically, Doc, the whole thing about hands-on healing, like the revival church, is basically the same, It's people being so highly charged energetically that they open channels, because you notice a lot of them deal with a lot of fasting and praying, which literally drives up the vibration that your body emits, that your cells, that it opens pathway to higher spiritual currents that's innate in us all. And just like you have people who can see spirits, you have people who are psychics. If you go online nowadays, it's the people who are who like the mediums, who can say, people, ancestors behind them and tell them messages and all that. It's big all over the internet and mainstream media all over in Africa. Obviously, you have that. Say she holding up her hand, she probably have that power. These healers, that's what you're doing, because all creation is made of scalar energy. It's all energy, is just different rate of vibration of the energy. So the hands-on healer is doing the same thing. It's just that you're doing it intuitively. They may be unaware of the mechanics behind it, but it's the same thing.
Yeah, same movement.
And final, and saying, I don't know if you saw that man from Indonesia. who was using his bioelectricity to set things ablaze and healing. I think some Australian, some people from Australia went to interview him. His name is not, I think he's what, Dynamo Jack, if you go YouTube and type it in. And he teaches you, and show you how you can absorb this energy, store it in your own body, this place right beneath your navel, that's called the dantian, and direct it consciously. So it's all energy, it's all electricity, it's all bioelectricity, it's all electromagnetism, it's all scalar energy. That's all I wanted to say. Sorry.
Hallelujah. All right, thank you. Yes, please, go ahead.
Doc, good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you. Thank you for the teaching so far. I want to ask, cleansing the same thing as detoxification?
So what?
Cleansing, is it the same as detoxification?
Yes, cleansing is the same as detoxification, yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Now, in the quantum machine, what exactly do we study when you look at a woman's gynecology analysis?
Mhm.
What
What?
are the things? What
Oh,
are
what are
the
the
things?
things? What are the what?
When you look at the quantum machine about
Yeah.
a woman, there's a place called the gynecology.
Okay. All right. So under gynecological, there are a number of information that is generated. Let me see if I can bring it up again. Let me just see if I can bring it up again, and I'll show you. Oops. I'll show you what you can see. Let me find. I'll give you an example. If I can find.
Find that within
Application. Just give me a minute. See if I can find. What are some of the information? Let me go to Ghana and let me go to share screen. Okay. So, all right. Are you seeing my screen yet?
yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Good. All right. So these are the under gynecological. These are the information that can be generated. So from here, we can know if the woman has an ovarian cyst. This is normal reading of the of that coefficient ovarian cyst. So right now this person is within that normal range. Cervicitis, which is inflammation of the cervix, normal. Appendicitis, normal. Pelvic inflammatory disease, normal. Vaginitis, abnormal. And also, I'll go through all of this. This one, vaginitis, when this is abnormal, it means that this woman will have recurring yeast infection. Once this is abnormal, this particular reading, once this one is abnormal, it means that this woman will have recurring yeast infection. So we'll have to talk to her about her diet. Yes, and there are herbs that we can use, and there are minerals that we can use to eliminate recurring yeast infection. Progesterone, this is the one that tells us if she has fibroids. So this lady definitely has fibroids because her progesterone level is low, which means that her estrogen level is high. So this woman would have fibroids. Prolactin, this one tells us about it affects sexual desire. So if this one is low, this woman would have reduced sexual desire. Gonadotropin talks about how developed certain hormone is, and female hormone. This one gives us a broad idea as to what's happening with if you're having hormonal imbalance. So from this, we are able to determine if the person has ovarian cyst, if the person has cervicitis, if the person have and this machine and one of my other machine, it gives me more detail you know, and I'll have to look on this in relation to other parts of the body as well. So based on this, we would know whether to cleanse the womb. If this woman needs her womb to be cleansed, because if she has ovarian cysts, she's also going to have abdominal pain, she's going to have irregular cycles, and she's going to have infertility issues if this reading is here. Cervicitis, she's going to have discomfort during intercourse. Most of the time, we recommend a pap smear because this woman may have bad cells in her cervix, so we're going to recommend her to do a pap smear and so on and so on. I said, when we start to look at the quantum, I will go through it. I'm done recorded lesson, going through it in details, showing you just how to use it. All right, because this is one of the main tools that we use as it relates to seeing clients. But once we do the assessment, as I said, where we are now, you're in unit 4, where we are looking at the different body systems. What I'm saying to you is that knowledge is important. So I want you to pay keen attention to it, because after you do the assessment, this chart, and I created this chart for person because that information was in my head. But it was, I created it out of my head because when I do the assessment, I'm looking at that chart inside of my head. And that is what tells me which herbal actions I will need. Based on the organ, based on the body system that is affected, I now know which herbal actions I need. And then after I have that, I determine that, then I'm going to move to the third step, which is out of the integrative approach, the activate, build, cleanse, and direct aid. Which of those 4 will I need? Or do I need all of the 4? And then from that now, I'm going to take that knowledge, because I may need to formulate a medicine. And I'm going to move that knowledge down. I'm going to now use up my knowledge of energetics. Do I need a herb that is stimulating, that will move, have movement? Do I need a herb that is damp? Do I need a herb that is dry? You know, so those, they're in your head, it's like there's a series of body of knowledge that you are going to go through before you actually come up with what type of medicine this person is going to need. So I want you to pay attention to the body systems, because you will, after a while, it will become second nature for you. You will have it in your head where it becomes second nature, where once you do the assessment, you just know, say, okay, that's the weakest body system. Under that body system is where I have my sedatives, is where I have my alteratives, is where I have, so it becomes second nature after a while. All right, you have any more questions, anybody else? Because I have about 18 minutes to go before I go into the next group. Yeah, go ahead, Benjamin.
Okay, Doc, are you familiar with the bacteria called Staphylococcus aureus?
Staphylococcus?
Staphylococcus.
Yeah.
Okay, can it be dictated quantum mention?
No, can't. That person would have to go to the lab to give get a more definitive conclusive finding as to whether persons have staphylococcus or other types of food poisoning bacteria. But if a person has a staph, then there are certain symptoms that the person will have. Belly ache. The person will have diarrhea. You know, so those, we can use those general symptoms to determine, yeah, if the person has a staphylococcus. I mean, I soon tell you, Adrian. So here's a question. Here's another thing. Piece. If you use energetics, you may not have to send that person to do a blood test. There's a principle that you're going to learn down in unit unit 20, unit 21, unit 22 going down. We're going to teach you what is called energetics, where you use certain principles to determine the tissue state. What is it, the state of a tissue? So our ancestors used, for example, the elements of wind, fire, earth, and water. And then they use some cross-border states in between. So if a person has a staph infection, a person has staphylococcus infection, then that person is going to have diarrhea. That person is going to have an abdominal pain. So that is telling me that the person, that's why the doctors will tell you, don't take any form of dairy, because what you have is moisture and coldness. And that coldness breeds bacteria. What you need is fire. So you're gonna need, so the energetics that is there, based on the tissue state, is dampness, coldness. What you need is fire. So you can use herbs that are fast energy. You can use herbs that have fire energy, that like cayenne pepper, like ginger, like cloves. So when you understand herbal energetics, even without a blood test, you can use your knowledge of herbal energetics and know what energy you're dealing with and what is the opposite energy. Right? What is the opposite energy? Like I did in the class that I'm doing that I'll have to go to in the next 14 minutes. I did a demonstration where I dumped some cayenne pepper in my mouth. Now cayenne pepper is pungent, so it's hot, it's burning. So it causes my eyes to run water, it causes my mouth to produce lots of saliva. So what it does is that it brings inflammation in my tissues. What I did was I intentionally inflamed my tissue. And I wanted to show persons what is the opposite energy, and the opposite energy with oil. So I got an avocado, put it in my mouth, and almost instantaneously, the fatty acids in the avocado neutralized the chemicals that was in the cayenne pepper. So when we look at herbal energetics, we'll show you how to use your knowledge of herbal energetics as well as tissue states to know which actions and which energy is opposite to which energy. How do you cancel out that energy? How do you neutralize that energy? And how do you create the energy that you want? All right, let me take Benjamin's hand. Yes, go ahead, Benjamin.
Hi, Doc, and good evening, everybody on the platform tonight.
Good night, good night.
Yeah, I'm kind of listening. I'm listening to the physics and the quantums that comes with the machine and how the cells reacting to the body and so on, right? And it brought my mind. I was looking at the video where persons were activating the chi, and what the guy said is that in the body of itself, the cells in the body, when you activate your body, reach a certain state, right? In quantum physics and so on, you're able to generate a certain amount of energy that in terms persons use for healing. And I'm here sitting thinking, right? How does herbs of itself, let's say you're picking herbs, and the herbs that you would use for a specific purpose, let's say for like building, and it is not properly prepared or during the drying process, so on, and it loses its property, or let's say it has been picked in a time when the moon probably is decreasing, or it doesn't have the potency, right?
Yeah.
How does it body of itself, or that particular organ which is being used for that?
All right, so that's a very good question, because what happened is that it would affect the effectiveness. It would impact on the effectiveness. So just like what you said. So for example, most people don't even know that you can choose the right herbs, but if that herbs was harvested at the wrong time, or if that herb was grown on the wrong soil type, if that herb wasn't processed properly, if that herb, for example, was processed using too much heat, the minerals would have been lost through the processing. The minerals would not have been there because it wasn't harvested at the right time. The mineral may have been destroyed because I may not be there because it wasn't grown on the the wrong soil type. So there are many factors that are implicated as it results to getting the right results. And so that is the reason why we say that natural medicine is not an exact science. We have to agree and understand that it is not an exact science because there are a number of variables, because it's based on nature, because we haven't tampered with, because we're not able to manipulate, to alter the form. It means that it is not an exact science. And so we have to be comfortable saying that. We have to be comfortable saying that. And so that is the reason why we tell persons that it takes time. A person may come and the last batch of medicine that you work wonderfully, and then the next batch doesn't work that well. It takes time. And so, there has to be careful assessment. There has to be careful evaluation. So we have to be honest enough to tell persons that, because there are a number of variables outside of our control that impact the quality and impact the effectiveness of the therapy and the healing process.
Thank you. Quickly, before I leave, right? How does emotion affect a healer when applying herbs to a patient?
Well, emotion is an energy. Emotion is an energy. And that's a very important question, because if I'm treating you and I have doubts, if my emotion is doubt, if my emotional energy is doubtful, I'm gonna pass that on to you. If I'm not knowledgeable and confident in what I'm doing, I'm gonna pass that on to you. And so one of the things that you want to do is, as I said, there are a number of variables that you don't have control over, but the ones that you have control over, like for example, how skillful you are at what you do, how much time have you invested in gathering the knowledge, how much experience do you have? Those you have control over can either impact negatively or impact positively. And so that is one of the reasons why being mentored, deciding to be mentored, because there are two teachers in life. I always say that there are two teachers in life. There is mistake and there are mentors. You're going to learn from two teachers in life. And you can choose. If you don't want a mentor, by default, you would have chosen mistake. And if you can get the chance to be mentored, wisdom would say, allow yourself to be mentored so that you can learn from somebody else's mistake. And so outside of the emotion of confidence and so on, there's also your spiritual grounding. If you are a spiritually grounded person, it's going to impact. It's going to, because people tend to the energy that you exude, people feel it. If you are spiritually grounded, then your energy is going to be an energy that can potentially offer a person support outside of the physical. So for example, if you're a prayerful person, then just praying with somebody can allow them to feel so much better. There are times when a person, there are persons will understand that, listen, you're helping me, but I understand that you have limitations. But they know that even if you have come to the end of your limitation, if you're a spiritual person, there is a supernatural element to your approach that puts more to your approach. So you can be limited by your ability, or you can have that spiritual approach where when your limitation is reached, you know how to tap into that unlimited resource.
Perfectly.
So emotion, it goes a lot. So most healers tend to have a spiritual underpinning, undergirding element to their approach. It may not be the spiritual conviction that you agree with, but nonetheless, because once you start to deal with life, you are forced to embrace something bigger than you, something bigger than the natural. Because once you start to deal with health and healing, you are forced to embrace the fact that there is a power bigger than the natural power. How you perceive that may be questionable, but you will be forced to confront and embrace that.
Yes, thank you. And the reason why I asked the last question, 3 of my patients that I've administered my herbs to, they give fantastic result. And one of them said to me, she said that during our course, because I gave her 21 days course treatment, right? And she said that one has to, on our path, she was saying that one has to believe and to know to the fact that it's going to work. And she said she applied our spiritual part of it in terms of that she's a Christian too, so she would have doing some fasting and praying, and between 3 weeks, because I was treating her for fibroid, and between 3 weeks the fibroid was like about 10.5, and it's shrink to like 5.3 to 4 point something. That's between 3 weeks, and she get pregnant around the same time too. But she basically she said that one has to believe, and
Element
and,
of faith.
yeah, and along with watch what you eat, and definitely there's certain things that you will have to cut down from or keep away from during the process of self-healing.
All right.
Thank you, Dr.
All right, you're welcome. Wonderful. All right, my time has almost expired. I have 3 minutes to go to the next class. But I just wanted to use this opportunity to put context to Unit 4. We're going into Unit 5, and all the topics that deal with the body systems. I want you to pay keen attention to it. I want you to spend time to know it, spend time to become familiar with it, because this is nothing that you're doing is going to be reference knowledge. All of what is in this course is going to be active knowledge that you need. None of it, I'm not giving you anything. And I've gone through the course and I've taken out anything that I believe you don't need now, and anything that I believe will be reference knowledge. Anything that I'm doing now is going to be knowledge that you will need. I mean, like, need it. So how well you know to utilize this will determine how effective you are going to be. Because once you spend the time to know this, I'm telling you, you're going to see how easy it is for you to work and to utilize it in an active way in helping persons. All right, again, I want to thank you guys for being on. I hope tonight live was informative, and I hope that it was educational. Tonight I'll post out Unit 5, and then on Wednesday I'll post the quiz. I'm still having some issues learning to use the system, so still bear with me. But I like to see a lot of persons are actually doing the quiz, getting stuff done. So looking forward to see you next week, Sunday. Please feel free when you go through the materials to write down your questions, because this is where you bring them. Whatever questions, clarification, or additional information that you need, this is where we discuss that. All right. So see you guys next week at the same time.
Thank you very
Blessed.
much.
Thanks. Blessed.
Okay. Good night.
Good night.